If you're a parent of a child with special needs, you know the feeling. That feeling that your child needs help, but getting it, well, it feels like trying to find your way through a maze in the dark. It is just so overwhelming. But what if you had a map? Okay, let's dive in, because that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're drawing that map for you. Right? This is the big question. It feels so personal, almost like the system is actively working against you. But the truth is, the barriers you're running into, they're built into the system. And once you understand how the system is built, you can figure out how to navigate it. So let's break down the two biggest roadblocks pretty much every family faces. So that first roadblock, it's the wait list. And just look at this number. Over 600,000 people. These are mostly kids and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and they are all waiting for help right now. If you're on one of those lists, I just want you to know you are so far from alone. And this isn't a short wait. We're talking an average of 37 months. That's over 3 years. And for some really specific services, like for autism, the average wait can be more than 5 years. This is not just some small delay, it's a huge chunk of a childhood. Okay, this is probably the most important thing to get. A wait list is not a line, like at the grocery store where you eventually get to the front. It doesn't really move like that. Think of it more like a funding wall. States are legally allowed to put a cap on how many spots they'll fund for these programs. So when the number of people who need help is way bigger than the number of funded spots, that's how a waitlist gets created. So why does this funding wall even exist? Well, to get that, you got to look at the really bizarre economics of this whole system. Basically, there are two main ways to provide care. In the community, at home, or in a big institution. Let's look at what they actually cost. And wow, this table just says it all, doesn't it? Keeping someone in their own home, in their own community, costs around $47,000 a year. That same exact person in an institution, over $313,000. So community care is more than 6 times cheaper. It's also what pretty much every family wants. And yet, that's the one with the massive multi-year waiting lists. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, but let's say you do it. You beat the odds, you get off the wait list, you have that approval letter in your hand. So you start calling providers to get services going, and boom, you hit the second major roadblock. You still can't find anyone to actually provide the care. Let's talk about why that is. This is what the providers themselves are saying. 62%, a huge majority, are forced to turn away new families. It's not that they don't want to help, it's that they literally don't have the staff. So that approval letter you thought so hard for, it doesn't mean services can just start tomorrow. It's a huge problem, and it all comes down to one thing. And that one thing is wages. The people who do this incredibly important work, they're called direct support professionals, or DSPs. Their median wage is about $14.50 an hour. That is more than $7 an hour below what's considered a national living wage. So when you can make more money working in retail or fast food, you get a massive staffing crisis. And the result of that wage gap? It's this number right here, a nearly 40% annual turnover rate. Just imagine your child finally connects with a caregiver they trust, only for that person to be gone within a year. It creates this constant instability for families who need consistency more than anything. So, okay, we've got underfunded services and an understaffed workforce. It can feel pretty hopeless. But here's where the story pivots. Because the most powerful solution to this whole crisis is you, the family. The truth is, families like yours are already providing 80 to 85% of all long-term care, completely unpaid. And the system is finally starting to recognize that, creating ways for parents to get paid for the work they're already doing. So how do you actually do that? How do you become the solution? Well, there are basically 3 ways you can get paid. In a self-directed model, you're kind of like the employer. In an agency-mediated model, you become an employee of an agency. And in a stipend model, you just get a fixed payment. But, and this is a huge but, there's a critical detail you have to know. While every single state lets some kind of family member get paid, the rules get really tricky for parents of minor children. The system calls you a legally responsible relative, and that distinction is everything, because the rules for parents can be totally different from state to state. All right, now that you have a handle on the landscape today, let's look down the road a little bit. There are some predictable challenges coming that you can absolutely prepare for if you know about them ahead of time. You know what they say, forewarned is forearmed. First up, there's a new federal law called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It was signed back in July of 2025. Now, the name is certainly memorable, but it's the impact you really need to keep an eye on. The new rules, including new ways to determine who is eligible, are set to kick in January 2027. So, the official projections say this law is going to cut federal Medicaid spending by over $1 trillion, and that millions of people could lose their coverage. But here's the key takeaway for your family. Starting in 2027, you will likely have to reprove your child's eligibility every 6 months. You have to be so careful with paperwork because missing just one deadline can get a totally eligible family kicked out of the program. The second big challenge to watch for is something called the transition cliff. The day your child turns 22, their legal right to school services, it just ends. It stops cold. And those services do not automatically roll over into the adult system. Nope. You have to apply all over again for a completely new system with its own rules and, you guessed it, its own waitlists. But here's the good news. This cliff is predictable, which means you can build a bridge over it. The families who get through this the best, they start preparing 3 years before graduation. So 3 years out, you get on the wait list for adult services. 2 years out, you open a case with vocational rehab. And 1 year out, you make sure that school transition plan is super specific and actionable. Okay, I know that was a lot. We've talked about wait lists, the workforce crisis, getting paid as a caregiver, future laws. So let's just make it simple. What can you do right now, today, to start taking control? Here are your first 3 steps. 1. Go to kidswaivers.org. It's got the best, most up-to-date info state by state on getting paid as a parent. 2. Call your state Medicaid office. Ask them this specific question. Which of your programs allow a parent of a minor to be paid as a caregiver? And 3, find your state's chapter of the ARC or your protection and advocacy organization. They give free help with navigation and legal support. And really, this quote just says it all. The system is a total maze, but knowledge is your flashlight. Understanding how it works, and honestly, how it's broken, is the single biggest advantage you can possibly have. You know, we've thrown a ton of information at you, from waiver rules to federal laws. It's way too much for any one person to try and remember. But you don't have to. There is a roadmap that can actually guide you through every single step, for free, whenever you need it. It's called Stella, and you can find your roadmap at askstellanow.org. Look, this isn't just about finding services. This is about claiming your power in a system that can make you feel completely powerless. You have the knowledge now, you have the map, and you are not alone on this journey.